Good afternoon. This is Dr. Thomas Klein coming to you from Raleigh, North Carolina, and the National Pain Council. The National Pain Council has been in effect for about 3 years, and you haven't heard a lot about it because we've been researching opiates and opiate problems now for 3 years. It's a massive effort. This is a 9-headed hydra. But we are looking for the truth. Everything that I say that's a reflection of the National Pain Council, we can back up. We don't make flat statements. Other people, like the CDC and the Physicians for Responsible Opioid Prescribing, their consultants, do make flat statements, which we disagree with. And the only way to disagree is to present factual information. A counterpoint. It's counterpoint. But what we're finding is that the CDC research by their inner circle, which is people from the PROP organization, or Physicians for Responsible Opioid Prescribing, their own people at CDC, people that receive CDC money, and from the Veterans Association, who were forced to adopt the CDC guidelines in December 2015. We're still not clear how it happened, but the law now says the VA system, Veterans Administration, has accepted CDC guidelines. The CDC guidelines were basically rejected by the FDA before they were published. In other words, the axioms brought to the CDC by this PROP extremist group of 17 doctors was presented to the FDA, the regulatory agency for pain medicines, and they looked at it for 9 months. And I can tell you they have very good scientists to look at these problems. And they said, I'm sorry, you have not presented enough valid information. We are not going to limit the use of opiates. Then the group PROP turned around and accused the FDA of causing the opioid crisis because they didn't regulate enough. Tells you a lot. Today we want to talk about the confusion between dependence, tolerance, and addiction. If you read papers by Andrew Kolodny, the founder of the PROP group, you'll see that he starts to talk about an addiction epidemic, addiction crisis. That's not true. The government itself monitors the number of people with heroin addiction, and it's basically not changed much. Matter of fact, it runs about 4 or 5 people per 1,000 have heroin addiction, but it's the same as it was in 1920. Worldwide, guess what the addiction rate is to opiates? 5 per 1,000. What is it in Canada, UK, and Portugal? 5 per 1,000. There's only one way that the prevalence of a disease is always the same. It has to be genetically controlled. We'll get into that later. Today we want to talk about what the fear is of addiction. It has to do with dependence and tolerance. And this shows up a lot in the PROP papers that are published. Dependence is an interaction, a biochemical interaction between the drug and your body. And that's pretty common that happens. For example, if you take an antidepressant, you're going to become biochemically dependent, bad word, biochemically involved between you and the pill, such that when you stop your antidepressant, you have withdrawal symptoms. And they can be very severe, and they can take a long time to get over. So the psychiatrists in our country make a book every year called the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual, which everybody believes is has come down from the mount. It's not. It's every time I read a description of a disease in there, it sounds like a bunch of people just made it up. Psychiatry doesn't have a lot of science, so they make it up, and then they sell this book for $35 with all the diagnoses. So we currently have the DSM-5, and there was a DSM-4 that preceded it that said if you're dependent on your medication, you're addicted. So that means people are addicted to their antidepressants, their anticonvulsants, their antipsychotic drugs, their Lasix, which is a diuretic. All of these things have withdrawal syndromes. Tranquilizers, sleeping pills, all these have they have withdrawal symptoms. So are all of these addictions? No. And the DSM-4, a proprietary list, really screwed up. This is the same outfit that claimed homosexuality was a state of mind that you could get rid of. So dependency's got nothing to do with addiction. Here's the logic. Remember where is he? Oh, remember our rooster logic. The rooster crows before the sun rises. Therefore, the rooster causes the sun to rise. People who have addiction develop biochemical dependence to the drug they are addicted to. Well, actually not. Addicted only to opiates. All other drugs, there's no withdrawal. So you can't say that dependence is involved. Okay, so people with addiction disease are dependent. Therefore, people who are dependent have addiction. Rooster logic. In the field of formal logic, this is a bad fallacy. You can't argue your point when you claim just because something occurs before the other, it's causal. You learn this in elementary school. But for some reason, a lot of the people in this business apparently didn't go to elementary school or ignored what they learned. Now, tolerance is the other thing that scares the anti-opiophobes at PROP and CDC. Nobody else, by the way. CDC acting in an unauthorized fashion, taking this group, Physicians for Responsible Opioid Prescribing, that in itself is a gaslighting statement. That assumes this group of 17 people knows what responsible prescribing is and nobody else does. All right? Tolerance is mentioned in the FDA drug blurbs called the package inserts. And you can look up package inserts on pdr.net. Very easy to read. Look them up, maximum dose, look up anything you want. And they will tell you in there that to expect tolerance. Tolerance is your ability to get rid of things out of your body. It's a good mechanism, but your body doesn't know what it needs. So what it does in its exquisite capacity to chemically analyze things and then get rid of them, it looks at your opiates that you've taken and says, hey, I don't know what this is, get rid of it. So it starts to get rid of it. And as it does, your blood levels drop and you get more pain. Now, this may cause your dose to increase. And that's the next thing that the opiophobes are really afraid of. If you increase the dose, you're going to create more addiction. Not true. And we're happy to have PROP respond at our email, nationalpaincouncil@gmail.com, if they have evidence that high doses actually cause more problems. Don't talk about overdose deaths. That's got nothing to do with prescription pain medicines. In Massachusetts, only 5% of people who had drug overdoses were involved with prescription drugs. Prescription drugs is not the issue. In 2006, an FDA researcher by the name